All right, boys, you wanted more cycles? You got them. Once again, if you don't know me, my name is Seth Green. I run a fitness coaching business. I've been in health and wellness for over 10 years now, including over a decade in physical therapy. This is my safe space for all of you to come out and have a grand old time talking about cycles and other bullshit in the fitness industry. So here's my reviews from you guys this week. There's a lot of them, so we're gonna run through them quick. One thing to make sure of though, before we get into this, you need to know that 500 milligrams is bare minimum for anyone to grow that is, what the fuck, Danny Tanner size, because if you're 210 and lean like him, then you need to make sure you start at least 500 tests to grow at all, apparently. I mean, this is just the advice he gave me. I didn't ask for it, but unsolicited advice is always good, right? First up, we got not Richard Curry, I don't know how to say his last name. 450 test, 650 mast, 50 milligrams T-Bowl, 10 IUs GH, and a white monster every day. Well, the white monster's fine, although I would contend that it is not the elite energy drink people.
You want.
What the fuck are you talking about?
It is not the elite energy drink people think it is. I actually think it's kind of mid-tier because honestly, like the caffeine content's a little low on it and the flavor's not even that great. You know, I grab them once in a while, but compared to like the Swedish Fish Ghost, it ain't on the same level. But as for that cycle, knowing that Richard has had problems before with acne and sometimes high test symptoms, I actually think that that ratio of test to mast is actually not a bad idea. T-Bowl is not my favorite oral. It's probably third place after Anavar and Anadrol, but that's fine. 10 IUs a GH is solid. Knowing his context and everything, I'd say that's a good 9 out of 10. Next up is the Kuram Render. 400 test, 400 Primo, 4 IUs GH, 40 milligrams of R. That is a champagne stack. The 4x4. That's actually a great second, third-ish cycle, honestly. I ran that with myself in the past. I really liked it.
No! God, please, no! No!
Assuming this is the second cycle, 4 IUs of GH is perfectly fine. I assume that's kind of where he's at because otherwise he'd probably be trying to push doses up like everybody else does. So I would give this a perfect 10 out of 10. The Joseph. This is not the first time he submitted one. I think he submitted the GH one last time with the non-freedom unit version. Let's see what this cycle is. His cut cycle. 500 test C, 450 mast, 300 EQ, 40 milligrams of R, 40 milligrams of Winnie, 40 milligrams of Clen. Okay, I've run something similar in the past with 400 test, 400 mast, 300 EQ. Mast, you're probably okay. Primo, it would crush my estrogen into the dirt. So with EQ and Primo, it would crush my estrogen into the dirt. Mast kind of just masks your estrogen symptoms. It doesn't necessarily crush it as hard. I'm okay with that. I'd rather see test E. C is sometimes a little funky, but it's fine. I don't know why you're mixing VAR and Winnie together. If this is not a pre-contest cycle, that makes no fucking sense. Let's not do that. Micrograms of Clen, I would hope, not milligrams, because milligrams would be insane. You'd probably blow your fucking heart out. Drop the Winnie, and I don't think that's too bad besides that. So on a cut, you probably don't even need that much in terms of total androgen load, honestly, but I mean, it's fine at the end of the day. I'm gonna give you a 7. Giovanni Romain asks, lean bulk cycle, 1,000 test E, 300 milligrams of Tren, 100 milligrams of Anadrol on training days. On the aggressive end, for sure, probably more than you need, yeah. I mean, the Tren's not obnoxiously high, the Anadrol's not obnoxiously high, honestly. I've seen people be able to run Anadrol at 150 for like 8, 10, 12 weeks before without any problems. So individual dependence, it depends on his individual response to the drugs, obviously. Not a bad cycle, probably more than he needs, but I'm still gonna give him a 7. Silva. Up next, 600 test E, 350 DHB, 200 MPP, 500 mast, 7 to 8 IE, I'm assuming that's IUs, GH, 8 Novo pre-post. Okay, first of all, why are we not using Humalog? Why are we using Novo? Like, let's not use insulins that have random fucking times that they hit. A lot of the other ones besides Humalog and Lantus, they have like this random, like it hits in 45 minutes or it hits in 2 to 3 hours, and it's hard to time up your carbs properly to not go hypo. So I don't understand using Novo over Humalog or Lantus apprentice, which we know when they act and they're predictable and easy to time up your carbs properly with. Why do we use a random insulin that sometimes hits 2 to 3 hours and there's other ones that hit in 45 minutes? They're just not appropriate for bodybuilding. Like, you want to use something that you can time up properly to not go hypo and kill you and yourself. I can't say that. In terms of structure, this cycle is probably overkill. I'm not a huge fan of this. 7 to 8 IUs of GH, okay, that's fine. Using insulin's probably not even necessary for this guy, honestly. DHB, you don't really need dihydroholding either with MPP and mass. You are hitting each family tree, okay, I get that, but that's what, 1100, and so it's 1.5 grams, so it's not horrendous, but there's a lot of room to improve this cycle. I'm giving you a 5. Next up is the Real Matt D. 20 weeks, 1 gram of sust, 350 tren, 100 var, 80 micrograms of clen, 2.5 milligrams of letrozole. All right, first of all, you don't need fucking letrozole. So if you need letrozole, you don't need to run 1 gram of test, straight up, or get gyno surgery. Don't be running that casually for 20 weeks. Letrozole is like an end-all be-all, last-ditch effort to knock down your estrogen, or you're using it during contest prep to get super fucking dry and crush your estrogen. No, don't do that. But in terms of anabolics, that's actually not bad. 80 micrograms of cleanse. You could probably start at 20 to 40 and start bumping up little by little instead of starting at 80. A lot of times people have to bump their clen up slightly as they go. So if you're starting at 80, you're gonna end up at like 160 the way you're going, and I think that's way overkill. I don't even think you need clen to start with on the cut, honestly. But in terms of using test, I mean, sustenance, I don't love, you already know that, mixing esters together. I don't know what this guy's doing now that I think about it. Like, if you were gonna be doing a cut, you don't need a gram of test. That's gonna make you super watery. So you either need to be reducing that test dose just to like a fucking base, and then supporting that with enough anabolics. 100 milligrams of VAR is way overkill. If you're getting real VAR, like 50 is more than enough. 100 you're just gonna cramp on. This has gotta be a cut. So everything here seems like he's doing a cut besides the 1 gram of test. So I would reduce the test, maybe go to something more predictable like test E. The trend dose is okay. VAR's overkill. I'd cut that in half. I'd cut the clen in half to start with and get rid of the fucking letrozole. You're gonna wanna use either Arimidex or Aromacin to control your estrogen, or just add some Primo. A lot to work on, but not like horrendous, but that's probably a 5 out of 10 right there. Jamie Schellenberg, 800 test, 400 tren, 500 mass, 40 Winstrol. I don't mind it. I mean, Winstrol is not my favorite. If this is a cut and you're looking for a certain look, makes sense. I wouldn't run the test that high though, unless you have problems with your estrogen getting crushed. It wouldn't make any sense on mass and Winstrol to have your estrogen crushed that high, or that low, sorry. Context, I'm not sure. If this is a bulk, you don't need the fucking tren and Winstrol for sure. If this is a cut, then that test dose should probably be lower. And I mean, I wouldn't worry about Winstrol until you're at the very end of it for a certain look. We just have better orals out there. Winstrol is very good at getting a very specific look, that like dry, grainy look, but it tends to give people problems with joints, and it's kind of rough just on your liver and your joints, period. So I don't like running it for a long period of time. I'd say you're probably better off with Anavar for the long term, and then maybe switch to Winstrol at the end for the certain look. But you know, it's not a horrible cycle, but there's, once again, room for improvement. It just seems to be that guys are getting a little confused on what they're trying to run in what phase. Because if you're on a cut, you just need enough anabolics to support not losing muscle mass, really. You're not really growing during your cut too much. You might a little bit, but you're purposely in a deficit. So just try to support the muscle that you have and try to get a certain, you know, dry, grainy look. I understand using a little bit of anabolics for that, but you don't need to push up your test dose super high and stack 3 to 4 other compounds also high when you're not really trying to add mass. It doesn't make a whole ton of sense. I mean, we got pros, I know that on their cuts, they only take, you know, 1.5 grams and they're pretty big dudes. So near the end of contrast prep, yeah, they're adding a ton of extra orals and they're probably up to 3 grams because they need that certain look and to be filled out on stage. But if you're at the beginning of a prep, like, you don't need a whole ton of gear, honestly. So I'm gonna give that one a 6. Depending on what phase he's in, he needs to swap either 1 or 2 things. Next up is Stenkek, 750 test E, 300 Deca. That's solid. I assume that's a bulk. You do well on Deca, that's fine. I'd rather see MPP, honestly, but if you do okay on Nandrolone already and you know this, Deca's okay. Now, you could add a DHT in there. That wouldn't be a bad idea. That's like a solid 7 out of 10 cycle. It just depends on your individual response. Andrew Ooze asks,
2
out of 10, you're a dumbass. Chronic Catabolism says, 800 test, 800 deca, 600 primo, 8 IUs-GH, 5 to 10 IUs of Humalog pre and post workout. I don't think you need Humalog both pre and post. Some guys are a fan of a pre-workout. I tend to feel like I go hypo at the gym when I've done a pre-workout in the past. It does give you crazy pumps, but like you can achieve that same kind of pump just by using Cialis and oral and, you know, the anabolics you have already. I like picking one or the other if you really even need insulin. My views on insulin have kind of shifted over time, like as I've used it more too. I don't think it's really as necessary as people think. It can help for sure in certain contexts, but like some people just get fat on it and it's not worth it in the end. Like you'd rather stay lean, add lean tissue. Is this completely fucking overkill? Probably. You're on 1600 to, you know, you're over 2 grams of gear, 8 IUs of GH plus insulin. So unless you're already a big individual, you probably don't need to push this high. But then again, I don't have context. I don't know how high he's pushed his doses in the past. It seems like a lot of people like on their 3rd cycle want to push up to this. Like that is something you run, like if you're 5 years in and you push doses and you've hit like a certain plateau and you need to push the doses up, like by all means, go ahead.
That's not my problem. It's yours.
But I feel like a lot of people I get, they're only on like their 3rd cycle or so, and they want to run a cycle this big. Like I have one guy who's like almost 60 years old, and he comes to me on over a gram of test and like 400 tren. I'm like, dude, like you don't need that. First thing we did was cut that right down in half. And I want to cut it down more, but he likes to run a certain dose, so I'm just letting him run what he wants. It's his body at the end of the day.
My choice! My choice!
Once again, I don't advise pushing doses up super high unless it's really necessary to align with your goals and with your level of current development. Kristen Iceland says 1250 sus, 400 EQ, 400 mass. He's 38, 6'3", 120 kilograms. Here we go again. We got these fucking commie units. Can somebody please tell these people that we are American here and we need freedom units? I know it's 2.2 because I have some guys from Australia that are clients and in Dubai. So I have to convert for them whenever they do their fucking check-ins. Just because I know it doesn't mean I want to fucking read it and do it right here on camera. So he's what, 260? That's a pretty fucking big dude. Maybe 50 to 100 Androl. That's fine. 2 milligrams of Arimidex per week. I wouldn't say you need X amount of Arimidex unless you're having symptoms. Use it as needed. Don't pre-plan taking it. For a guy that big, 2 grams of gear, that's fine. Yeah, we'll give you an 8 out of 10. Brandada, 300 test, 150 mast, 10 milligrams of Trent Ace every day, and 10 bar. So are you doing 300 test every day? Or are you doing 300 test, 150 mast? You worded this weird. What the fuck? So if you're just doing 10 milligrams of Trent Ace, I think he's trying to go low dose here. 70 milligrams of Trent Ace is fucking stupid. Sorry. Just run 150. Run like 1 milligram or 1 milliliter of it. Like Vigorous Steve's big on microdosing trend, but just run a dose you know is gonna work instead of like dicking around and just, you know, exposing yourself to little microdoses. If you're trying to make progress, just make fucking progress, dude. 10 VAR every day. I mean, if you're getting legitimate VAR and you actually feel 10 milligrams, great. Most people, men at least, usually need about 20 to 50 milligrams. But if you respond to 10 would be fine. Now as a low dose, like baby cycle, I guess this is all right, but I've always thought the whole microdosing trend is fucking stupid, honestly. If you're gonna use it, use it. And if you're not gonna use it to the full extent, then just don't even use it at that point. If you're gonna expose yourself to it, maximize it. If you're not really wanting to expose yourself to it for a certain reason, then don't even run it in the first place and just add more mast or a little bit of primo to dry out more. So I'm gonna give you a 7 out of 10 because there's a couple things to tweak there. And the last one will be Brett. Now, Brett goes to my gym, so I already know. I haven't even read it yet. Like, I told him to send it to me. I know it's gonna be over the top. I'm looking at the camera right now, and I just pulled it up. But Brett typically, like, cruises on 2 grams of test. He's a power lifter, so let's see what he got. 1050 testy, 700 DHB, 700 mass, 6 IUs of what? The GH, I assume. 100 T4, 40 telly. All right, Brett, that's actually not horrible. Like, I expected much worse from him. I'm not gonna lie. Some of the cycles he's ran in the past will definitely raise eyebrows, but yeah, being a power lifter, I mean, I guess if the mast helps you stay drier, that's fine. I know usually he likes to run trend, so I don't know what phase he's in his powerlifting prep here, but yeah, having the T4 in place to offset the decrease from the GH makes sense, and then tell him it's starting to control blood pressure. I'm happy you're doing that. I think in the past he wasn't good about controlling the blood pressure and checking it, so happy to see that you're on top of that now. But yeah, now he's a big dude too, so I mean, was it 2.4 grams, 2.5 grams or so for him? That's actually a mild cycle for Brett, so I'm actually gonna give that an 8 out of 10. That's pretty good for him. Yeah. Please like, subscribe, comment, hit the notification bell so you get more content like this pushed right to you.